raid the mini bars for cookies. And now we have emergency sirens. Best press conference ever. Okay, guys, let's. Can I ask you a question? Who has a question? I understand that microphones are all around us, and that I'm trying to yell, and it actually does take the wind out of me. Now, do they have to do the same? Okay. Anybody who has a question, just yell. Yes. Yell, sir.
So is the Jetson Xavier using the same Xavier SoC as the Drive Xavier?
Yes.
Exactly the same.
It's exactly the same processor that is in here. That is in here. The same this is the beautiful thing. This architecture and this architecture and this architecture and this architecture is the same. And that's why software that's written by this computer will just run on this computer. Does that make sense?
Yep.
The software that is written by this computer will just run naturally on this computer. And the algorithms for perception and localization and planning are very similar between a self-driving car that has to move at 75 miles an hour with everything moving around it versus a robot that has to move at 1 meter per second. Does that make sense? And so the amount of processing that is required for a robot is surely less than a car with all the sensors around it traveling at 75 miles an hour. But the basic algorithms are very similar.
When Drive Pegasus was announced, it was announced with post-Volta GPUs. But today you said it's got Volta GPUs. Has that changed, or is there a second generation coming?
There's a second generation coming because there's these adapters.
Yep.
And all you have to do is pull this out, and then someday put another one in. And it's
when will that day be?
That day will happen on the day that we have another party. I will invite you for sure. Okay, but and that's the beautiful thing, because they're all software compatible. I can take this module out, put a new module in, and it just works. That's the beautiful thing. A thoughtful computer architecture. Okay, one architecture. Anybody? But you have to loud. Yes, sir.
You play Fortnite or PUBG? Which one's better?
They're both great. PUBG, Fortnite, they're both amazing. Next. All I know is that in 8 months, 10 million more gamers came into the marketplace. That's extraordinary. Yes, sir.
PC gamers are seeing this new Volta architecture, this exciting architecture in all kinds of markets, data center, AI, self-driving cars. They can't wait to get it themselves for gaming. Have you anything to say to that?
Well, what I have to say is that first of all, as you know, there are so many gamers in the world who were deprived of GeForces in the last several months because mining drove demand so high. Finally, I'm so relieved that the pricing of GeForce cards are coming down. And so 1080 Ti's and 1080s and 1070s, they're the best graphics cards in the world for gaming. They're going into PCs, as you know. They're going into these wonderful Max-Q notebooks. And so I would go out and buy a GeForce ASAP. That's what I would tell gamers. Okay. It's back in the marketplace. Yes, sir.
Are you measuring those 10 million more gamers? Is that just total GPUs sold, or would that be like you installs of Fortnite and PUBG like on PCs running NVIDIA GPUs?
We monitor the number of active GeForce gamers on a weekly basis. Active GeForce gamers, whether they're playing, whatever game they're playing. In the last 8 months, the number of active GeForce gamers literally increased 10 million people. Some of them are probably new gamers. Some of them could be somebody who hasn't been playing games for a long time that came back into the games.
So active.
Active GeForce. probably a lot of them are unique. Yes.
Yeah. Can I?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. I believe NVIDIA is a very important key technology. And now you are using NVIDIA as a fabric inside the computer node. How about do you have any plan to extend NVIDIA to node fabric like Intel's Omnipath?
NVLink is a really important technology. It's absolutely right. And it connects NVLink connects every GPU to every GPU, and it comes through the switch. So every GPU goes into the switch, every single GPU goes into the switch, and every switch is connected to each other. Now everybody can talk to each other at the same time. Now this is only on one node. However, we have the ability to extend it beyond the node. And it looks like this. This is the backplane. And so as a result, different nodes can be connected in this high speed, 300 gigabytes per second per GPU. Unbelievable. And so we literally take this backplane, we stick it between the motherboards, and we clamp it together.
Not only to board, but also many.
Well, over time,
Okay.
yeah, it's really good. Yeah. Let me take a question back there. Anyone? I'll come back. If you ask another question, there's other stuff back here. Yes, ma'am.
Well, my first question is what's behind there? My question is about the future of autonomous machines and intelligent machines. How long do you think these timeline-wise until we start to see these become really commonplace? Kind of crystal ball for us, and what excites you most about this new era?
Yeah, so regarding autonomous machines and these intelligent machines, my single favorite is actually the self-driving car. And the reason for that, the reason why we worked on self-driving cars first is because the impact to society is enormous. You know, obviously a lot of people get hurt driving cars. And here we are driving and we lose attention, or something happens by accident, and it's beyond our capability to maneuver properly. And so these cars are always going to be paying attention. They'll keep us out of harm's way. It'll be able to move products much more cost effectively than we could do today, which will reduce the cost of products, increase demand, increase quality of living, right? And so that's going to be great for society. And so in the future, what's going to be super exciting to me is that reducing the cost of insurance, reducing the cost of injury and damages, decreasing the cost of delivery of goods, which increases its consumption and quality of life, is going to go on. I think that self-driving cars will unquestionably be one of the most powerful driving forces of economy going forward. Trucks, shuttles, trains, planes, automobiles. I mean, it's going to be autonomous machines everywhere. Yes?
So AI accelerated ray tracing, fabulous technology, it's probably where ray tracing is going, but currently you need a system with 4 massive GPUs to get it to run. Should we expect it in gaming in the next GPU generation, or is it still going to be further out from that?
Yeah. So deep learning accelerated ray tracing. You guys saw the visual quality. It's really quite amazing. Reflections, refractions. I mean, it took this machine. It took this machine to do it in real time. And so this has 4 Volta GPUs inside. And so this young man's question is can we imagine that this would someday be in a consumer graphics card? And the answer is, of course. The question is how long. It takes quite a long time to shrink this particular machine, which is $68,000, into a graphics card that goes into that laptop. And so that's going to take some time. I think that the exciting thing for us today is that because of RTX, because of NVIDIA RTX, now game developers, filmmakers could now have the benefit of GPU accelerated ray tracing, and it accelerates their content creation and reduces its cost. And so we're just seeing incredibly great excitement around RTX. I think every film studio, every game developer will use, every architect, every car designer will use RTX to be able to produce those images much more quickly and cost effectively. And then someday, we would love to be able to bring it to the mass market. Yes, sir.
Are there any games that are actually challenging the limits of NVIDIA GPUs, GeForce GPUs at the moment? Because what you're announcing is mobile, but it seems like your best graphics cards are already way too powerful for gaming applications nowadays.
Yeah, so the question is, are there games that challenge our graphics cards? The answer is a whole bunch. And the reason for that is because we want to run these games at 4K resolution, anti-aliased, with all of the settings turned on, all the particle physics simulations turned on, and to run it at 120 hertz. And quite frankly, what I just described is not possible for any of our high-end graphics cards today. And so we're continuing to push the limits because of that very reason. We would like, watching a movie is a passive experience, so 30 frames per second looks just fine. But when you're playing a video game, 30 frames per second is actually terrible. And so you really want the frame rates to be high, so that the latency is low, so that everything's nice and silky smooth.
Just to follow up to that question, so can you give us a hint when we might be able to run 4K at 120 hertz on a single card? Maybe a date and an hour, maybe two, if you got that.
4K, that's something I don't know how to predict. That's beyond my limits. No, not really. I can predict it. I won't. Because I want to, I like you guys. I want to spend time with you guys. So we can't talk about everything in one shot. Today we talked about Max-Q, we talked about AI, we talked about all of the markets that it's going to go and automate, and we talked about intelligent machines. We talked about so much.
Hi, Jensen. I just want to ask whether you have any plans to come up with mining-only cards.
The question is, do we have plans to come up with mining-only cards? We have mining-only cards. We try to create mining-only cards to to diffuse the demand, to reduce the demand in the marketplace, the open market for GeForce. And the reason for that is because we created GeForce for gamers. And the last 6 months, the demand was so high that it was so hard for a gamer. I get so many letters from, from people that fathers and guys that, people that just want to buy a gaming card and they couldn't. Everything sold out. And so, mining is a bonus to our business, but it's not our business. We have so much growth in all of our businesses. I would rather that mining demand subsides a little bit and allows the GeForce cards to be out in the market for gamers. We did create a mining specialty SKU. We call it CMP, and we sold it directly to miners. Hopefully, their needs could be subsided that way, and then I saved the GeForce cards for gamers.
When's the next GeForce?
When's the next GeForce? I'm going to invite you guys. Don't worry. I promise. You guys. Not only will you be invited, there'll probably be lunch. Those are questions. I won't forget you. I promise.
Can't you give us a little hint?
A little hint?
Yeah, maybe you can hang behind there. I think
It's a long time from now. It's a long time from now. Yes, sir.
When you presented Xavier for autonomous driving, you showcased your own car as well. So right now the question is, do you have a robotic program? I mean, hardware program?
Yeah, so in the case of the self-driving car, the reason why we had to go build our own self-driving car is because 7 years ago when we started working on this, there were nobody working on it. And how would I know what processor to design if I didn't understand the algorithms on top? And so we decided to work on the algorithms on top. And as we're developing the algorithms on top and trying to figure out what kind of computing is necessary, computing style and computing load is necessary, we could design the processor at the same time. And so you might have seen, this is called the Drive Pegasus. The last generation is called Drive PX2. Drive PX2 was our development system for all of our autonomous vehicles. It has been shrunk into this. So this, what used to be this, looks like this, is now Drive Xavier. That's how I knew how much computing is necessary for Drive Xavier. Now, in the case of robotics, we're building our own robot. It's a little tiny platform. It's called Carter. And you saw it has 2 big wheels, has LiDAR and camera and ultrasonics. And we develop all of the necessary algorithm. And then we open the platform for people. They could use all of our AI networks if they like. They could create their own if they like. And so, we want to create an open platform that inspires people to make these intelligent machines as easily as possible. And so we solve both of them at the same time. Yes, sir. I saw a question earlier. Yes, sir.
It was recently announced at the Hot Chips conference that NVIDIA would have a talk about next-gen GPU, and that suddenly changed to be...
You have got to live in the present. Come back. Come back.
I'm just wondering if the talk is still going ahead.
I promised to invite you. We have parties, so many parties. Yes.
Just on the mining question,
Yes.
does it personally annoy you when you create these powerful machines to enable all these amazing gaming developments and people sticking in the back shed?
It doesn't annoy me. The reason why, you guys know this. You guys know that GeForce is the world's largest distributed supercomputing platform. The reason why cryptocurrencies want to run on these large distributed systems is so that no entity has control over manipulating the currency. That's the reason why it wants to be distributed. And so in the beginning, many currencies will start out being GPUs. Sometimes a few of the currencies are easy to turn into an ASIC, and then the power centralizes into a couple of companies. The community doesn't like that, creates a new algorithm, distributes it back all over the world. Okay, so there's a reason why our GPUs are perfect for cryptocurrency. And so we understand that. And I love the idea of blockchain. I love the idea of distributed ledgers. I love the idea of cryptographically, protected file systems. I love all that. And so I encourage that. However, we have to stay agile so that whenever the mining demand comes, we can fulfill it somehow and then continue to allow the demand for gamers. So I'm not annoyed. It's a bonus in our business. I don't count on it. It's a bit of a bonus. But right now, I'm just super delighted that price of GeForce cards are back there. Yes, sir.
Hi. We're seeing, I think, more of a union between CPU and GPU computing from your competitors.
We don't unionize.
Yeah, well, I mean like the CPU and GPU all in one, all in one die. That's one thing.
Union.
I'm wondering, where does that leave NVIDIA? Because it does seem like you're focusing on GPU computing.
Yeah.
But if Intel can bring in these graphics,
Yeah.
it seems like strong competition for you.
Yeah, there are places where integration is really great. For example, this is great integration. This has 6 different processors, not 2. A CPU and a GPU is not enough. You need a computer vision processor. You need sensors, processors. You need you need all kinds of different types of processors. On the other hand, this computer hates integration. This computer hates integration. This computer wants to be disintegrated. And the reason for that is because sometimes you want 1 CPU per GPU, sometimes you want 1 CPU for 2 GPUs, sometimes you want 1 CPU for 8 GPUs. And so the configuration, the amount of salt and pepper in that dish is separate. If you created a spice that is salt and pepper combined, unified, a unified salt and pepper, it's less useful than salt and pepper. Okay. It just depends. I just used a metaphor that I'm going to regret.
I was saying, what about Five Spice?
Five Spice. Well, Five Spice is very special.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? Bob? Where are you, Bob?
Right here.
Did you do time control? Are we good?
We've got a few more minutes.
Okay.
Right there.
More about
last year, so this year what will be the
Yeah, supercharging AI here in Taiwan. And so AI is going to impact research, the technology companies, as well as the local industries. Where there's manufacturing or healthcare or smart city or transportation. And so all three, from research to the computer industry to the actual industries, large industries here that are local, AI could revolutionize all of them. And so we're working with Taiwan in 5 different areas. One is building a supercomputing infrastructure, and that's the most computer called Taiwan AI, Taiwan U. Okay? So that's a very large supercomputer, very fast supercomputer. We're also going to teach deep learning here. We're going to collaborate with researchers here in Taiwan to collaborate to advance AI. We're also going to work with the industry locally to apply AI in the local industries. So there are all kinds of things that we're going to work on together. Yes, sir.
Hello. You mentioned earlier that millions of people are being converted into becoming new gamers. May we know where these new gamers are coming from? Like emerging markets?
Well, emerging markets is the fastest growing. And so Southeast Asia, as you know, is a very fast growing segment of the marketplace. China is the largest market for overall gaming. But there's growth everywhere. The way that I think about gaming is this. I believe every human's going to be a gamer someday. We currently have several 100 million gamers in the world. I believe every human will be a gamer someday. And so it's just every human watches television. Every human listens to music. Every human should read. And so every human will play video games of some genre someday. The reason why the Battle Royale attracted so many new people is because it's so social. If 3 of your friends are playing Battle Royale, you are going to play Battle Royale. It's a social platform. And so the more of your friends are playing, the more your friends play. And the more of your friends play every week, the more you'll play every week. And so it's just a much more sticky, much more social, much more viral gaming genre. It's a really, really ingenious genre that PUBG created, and I think it's done great for video games. Yes, sir.
When can I buy the big format gaming display?
When can we buy the big format gaming display, Matt? What's the answer?
The end of the summer.
The end of the summer. Is this a beautiful display or what? Goodness gracious. HDR? And this is an HDR G-Sync display. Have you guys ever seen HDR on a display before? Well, HDR with video games, the sun is so bright and the dark shadows are so beautiful, so deep. Yes, sir.
So the demo you had with the RTX ray tracing was really impressive. However, it relied entirely on human figures in suits and masks. How does it fare with skin textures? Is the stuff you're doing with AI acceleration help there? Is overcoming the uncanny valley effect you usually get in those situations something that you're concerned with?
Yeah, and so it's a question: how does it do with faces? And the answer is incredibly well. And the reason for that is because our flesh has this effect where light goes through the surface of the flesh, bounces around underneath, picks up the different tones in your flesh underneath, and then the light comes out in a whole bunch of different angles that are different than the incident angle of the light. And that's called subsurface scattering. Subsurface scattering is what causes jade and marble and even milk to look like milk. Have you noticed milk doesn't look like white water? Milk has this weird characteristic where light goes in one direction, it bounces around inside and comes back out in every direction. Okay, so a gummy bear does that. And so your flesh does just that. It's a very, very subtle effect, but if it wasn't there, it looks like chalk. Okay, we look like cartoon. Well, ray tracing allows us to do just that. We'll literally take a ray, run it inside your flesh, it'll bounce it around, and then it comes out in a whole bunch of different directions.
So have you released any demos? Or?
We will. It's just harder to create a human face, but we will. Yeah, absolutely. Some of the other effects that you'll see, it's called caustics, which is really fantastic. A curved translucent object light will go in through a whole bunch of different directions, and it will gather into a volume, and it creates this kind of a scintillating image. It's called a caustic. You know, when you have sunlight on top of a swimming pool, on the bottom you see that ray of, that's called caustic. Ray tracing does that completely natural. Yeah. Okay, how about we take one more question, and then we can start the Computex. Who wants to be the last question? Not you.
All right.
Somebody asked the last question, and it has to be about today. That's the only rule. Okay? It can't be about the next party. The next party is the next party. It's like you come to your friend's house, and then we're hosting a party, and you're talking about the next party. Yes, sir.
All right, well, I'm going to change my question.
Yeah,
I was gonna
thank you.
ask about maybe late G, that's not today. So my question is, as a bigger picture, you guys are spending a huge amount of resources developing AI, machine learning, all this stuff. When should technology companies become involved with the morals of where the technology is applied? The bigger picture, like replacing all of human jobs and those kind of things. Is that your job, or is that the responsibility of the people downstream to take care of?
Well, we should always talk about using new technology for good. That's an excellent question, and it's a great last question. We should always be thinking about technology for good. And we had to open the dialogue so we can talk about all of the implications of a new technology to society. The surprising thing is this, and I'm going to say something that is completely obvious. AI is machines that learn. AI is software that writes software, which means AI is the automation of automation. AI has the ability to discover what to automate by itself, which means we are going to go through an era where the type of things we can automate is going to grow exponentially. You can automate this, you can automate that, you can automate everything. And so the automation of all of these different vertical industries, this is all automation. This is all using this computer platform to develop software that we can run in these industries to automate the industry. When you automate something, you improve the productivity, reduce the cost of doing the task, and when you reduce cost, what happens? It stimulates demand. In almost every single industry, when the cost comes down, the demand goes up. There are no industries that I can think of where costs coming down has been bad for the industry. Largely has been good. Sometimes the jobs are shifted somewhere else. But the first thing that will likely happen is this. Because the transportation of all of our goods is going to come down, the cost of goods will come down. Because we'll have fewer accidents, there will be less cost in insurance. Insurance is money that, if released back into society, is really, really good. If money that was otherwise used in damages and injuries were released back into society, it's really, really good. The number of ambulance drivers and the number of people in emergency rooms will likely come down. However, they will have to find jobs somewhere else. And that's the implication of the jobs. But for society overall, there's no question in my mind that a productivity initially will stimulate demand. Long term, I think that I would be surprised, long term, if the number of work days in the week went down from 5 to 4. You guys know that a long time ago, society worked 7 days a week. And the reason for that is because in the beginning, we had to hunt for food. And they had no refrigerators, which means we had to hunt for food every day. When the agriculture industry came, it was the automation of food production. Automation of food production. But we still worked 7 days per week. Now we work 5 days per week. I wouldn't be surprised if society moved to 4 days per week. And we can work 4 days per week because the productivity of the industries have improved. And the automation has improved, and the tools that we use to do our jobs has improved. And we can go to 4-day work weeks, we could sleep for 1 day, and read novels for 2.
Or play games.
play games every single day, guys. Okay, with that, thank you very much for coming. Have a great Computex.
最後までご覧いただきありがとうございました。チャンネル登録の方もできればお願いいたします。